We have Kendall here. We knew we wanted another child. He wanted a
Daddy's
boy.
Gotta have a boy.
I didn't care as long as the baby was healthy. So, no complications during pregnancy.
Yeah, pregnancy was smooth. Doctor's appointments went great. Everything. There was nothing leading up to what we went through once he was delivered.
Yeah, we had no idea that we were going to have complications. And I was in labor for 8 hours. And he came into this world. And they immediately took him to the NICU within 10 minutes after birth. And he had to be put on life support. It's the scariest moment of our life.
During the birth process, a baby's first bowel movement, it's called meconium. It's a real thick tar-like substance. For Kason, he actually had that movement in the birth canal as he was coming out. He came into this world and he took that first deep breath of air. Unfortunately for him, he aspirated the meconium into his lungs. And again, it's a thick tar-like substance. So because he was so new and so small, his lungs weren't strong enough basically to breathe on their own. So they tried the airbags to get his lungs to open up, and they sucked out as much of it as they could.
You know, I'm asking the doctor, what's wrong with my baby? What's wrong with him? What's wrong with him? Oh, it's fine. It's just the meconium. We'll get it out, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I knew something was wrong with him. And he was rushed out of the room 7 minutes after I had him. So they laid him on top of me. He cried like a little bit, and then they snatched him away, and he was gone within 7 minutes after I had him. Like somebody ripped my heart out.
Scared. Because we had been through it with Kendall, everything was fine. You know, we were holding her, she was crying, she was up with Kason. This is 3:45 in the morning, and there's just a room full of people that I don't know. And we're still standing there. No one's really telling us much because obviously at this point they really don't know everything that's going on yet. So we're just kind of sitting there, and I don't want to scare Jen. I don't want to alarm her, and start asking questions. So I'm trying to be as composed as I can, and it just wasn't easy. It got to the point where I think we all just broke down, and
we had to wait about 2 hours before they came and gave us an update. And it was so scary because that's when they delivered the message that he had aspirated the meconium, and then they mentioned the possibility of brain damage.
Mm-hmm.
And that in and of itself was so scary.
Yeah, the brain damage part that was the news we got first, and they told us they were going to do a cooling cap on his head to kind of slow the brain growth
and prevent a possibility of further brain damage.
Right. Because
they were afraid that he had went without oxygen from me to the NICU. They were afraid that he went without oxygen for a while, and that could cause brain damage. So that was one of their major concerns.
They got him into the NICU, and that was where they realized that his gas levels were way off. He had much more CO2 in his blood than oxygen. He couldn't expel the CO2 and couldn't breathe in the oxygen. So they did try. They were literally giving him pure oxygen into his lungs. They tried everything.
My dad and mom, Pastor Tim, they called Pastor Tim, and he'd shown up. I didn't even know he was coming, and he showed up with us, and he sat there, and we all sat around my hospital bed, and he prayed with us, and this sense of peace just came over me. I don't know if it hit you, but
I felt it. Just something.
It just, you felt God in the room at that moment. He was in that hospital with us.
I felt it. With the process of what was going on and having to trust these doctors, and that's when they told us about the ECMO machine, and basically this is our last resort. If this doesn't work, then there's not really much we can do. So we did kind of put a lot of our trust in God and trust in these doctors, and they did a phenomenal job. I mean, they still...
All we did was pray.
Every day.
We had people praying for us that we didn't even know. We had a chain of prayer. Everybody that we knew, we were calling in the big guns. I mean, at a time like that, you need all the prayer you can get.
Going through something like this it's not easy on anybody. It takes a strong person to be able to make it through the other end still battling. I always believed in God, had a relationship, thought I had a relationship with God, but it wasn't nearly as strong as it is now. I just kind of felt this overwhelming sense, to the point where I've got tingles. just kind of opened my eyes to needing a relationship with God, and especially for my children and for my family. That's how we started going to City Church. My father-in-law has been going there. We really enjoy it. All the people are great. Kendall loves being a part of City Kids.
It restored my faith. I thought I was close to God, but after this experience, there's no break in the bond that I have with him now.
Yeah.
We pray more as a family.
We do pray. Yeah, nightly prayers before she goes to bed. Pray before dinner.
You can't go through an experience like that without God. You just can't. And we were fully relying on him during that time. And he was in the NICU with Kason the entire time. We felt it. Every time we went down there, I felt God's presence.